Hello all and welcome to another one of these collection videos. Today we're looking at the SEGA Master System. So this is my SEGA Master System collection. We're going to start off here and then you're going to see a different background halfway through because my Master System games are in two different places. First of all, we have an all-time classic, Wonder Boy 3 The Dragon's Trap. This game has been obviously redone reasonably recently by Lizard Cube. .emu, I think, were responsible for remastering this with beautiful art style. You can also play the original game in that with the Master System graphics as well. It's a great game. What can I say about it's terrible cover, really. It doesn't really represent the game very well. But basically, as Wonder Boy, you can turn into different creatures, different abilities. So if you enjoyed, say, Wonder Boy Monsterland and you want something a little bit different but the same in a way, then Wonder Boy 3 The Dragon's Trap is a great game for you to check out. So next up, we've got Fantasy Zone. And Fantasy Zone is a side-scrolling shooter, but it's a bit different than most. Obviously, you have all these bases you have to destroy, so you have to move back and forth throughout the level, find all the bases, destroy them and move on. Beautiful, cute art style. It's a bit of a SEGA classic series, in fact. Next up, we got Power Strike, which is a overhead shooter, very highly regarded. I'm not very good at overhead shooters, in all honesty. So Power Strike is, I find, a rather hard game. But I got this absolutely years ago now and came highly recommended, of course. I think now this game is reasonably valuable, so it's definitely a nice one to have the ability to play and not have to pay stupid price for it. Golfomania, what a title. So I went through a phase of collecting sports games for the Master System because I didn't have many sports games. So after a bit of research, I settled on Golfomania. I have played this. My impressions were good, I think. It's been a while. I've not been inclined to pick up Golfomania for quite some time. But yeah, it's a pretty solid golf game if you're after one for the Master System. Next up, Tasmania. Okay, so Tasmania on the Master System is probably the best version of Tasmania. You have to be really careful with this game because it's different on, I think, nearly every format. But the Master System version has some really nice play mechanics. It's really fun and I recommend it highly. Now, a series I love, and if you're frequent viewer, you may know that I have a lot of love for the Lemmings series. So I got this after the fact. I didn't have this when I was a kid, actually, because I was playing Lemmings on the CDI when I was a kid. But much later on, I picked up the Master System version of Lemmings, and it's a very competent version of Lemmings, very good. I'm very happy to have this. With all my Master System games, I try and get them with the manuals. A lot of these ones I had as a kid, and I've kept the manuals, didn't lose them. This one I picked up while I was working at a certain video game retailer years and years ago when they started doing retro again. And didn't know much about this at all at the time. Bought it, played it, liked it, and more recently I've heard that Master of Darkness is a very highly regarded Master System game which has a lot in common with Konami's Castlevania series. Sagaya is basically Darius. If you're familiar with the Darius series, it's a series by Taito of side-scrolling shooter games, spaceship, fly around, shoot stuff. Yeah, again, I think this was from the days of working in games retail. This came in rather cheap, I think. I don't know. I don't think this was expensive or anything like that. I've never paid a lot of money for any Master System game because I collected them a long while ago. This one actually isn't out of a book, but manual, shall I say. I think it's given to me by a friend who was getting rid, or maybe I bought it off him. He was getting rid of some of his Master System games. This was, again, years and years ago. But Marble Madness is a great game. Sorry, talk about the game a little bit. It's an arcade style isometric game. You have to guide a marble through an obstacle course, and the marble physics are what make this game what it is. So great game. Master System version is fine. Here's one of the many Jurassic Park games. Jurassic Park for the Master System is pretty much the same as the Game Gear version. I think in the Game Gear version you play as a female character, whereas in the Master System you play as a male character. I think I can't remember if you actually play as Dr. Grant in this or not. It's been a while, but yeah, good side-scrolling action game. Batman Returns shouldn't be overlooked on the Master System. Another good side-scrolling action game. If you want a Batman game for the system, then I'm not sure if the original Batman was released on it or not, but Batman Returns it's good. You might want to check it out. Big fan of Looney Tunes growing up. Later down the line I picked up Desert Speed Trap, Roadrunner and Wile E. Coyote. Not played so much of this game actually. From what I remember, it was pretty good. Played well, nice colourful graphics, but I can't say too much about this one, sorry, at the moment, but nice cover. Land of Illusion. Okay, so I grew up with playing Castle of Illusion on Sega Master System, and again, a little later down the line, when I started actually collecting video games, I picked up Land of Illusion to try it out, and it's similar. It's similar to Castle of Illusion, but a little bit more, if I remember, a little bit more cryptic in how you sort of progress through the game. Some might like that, some might not. I prefer the simpler nature of Castle of Illusion to this one, but you know, it has also got a lot going for it. Next up, Asterix for Master System. Quite highly regarded 2D platformer for the system. I grew up with Asterix. I read a lot of Asterix as a kid, and yeah, this game didn't disappoint. You might want to check it out. Ninja Gaiden on Master System is not the same game as it is on the NES, but it is the same game as it is on the Game Gear. So this one hasn't got a manual. This was again picked up around about the time I was collecting games when I was working in games retail, and this one came in. You can see the old price on there, I think even. I don't know what that is. Maybe it wasn't a price. Anyway, it was cheap. Rambo 3. So Rambo 3 is a light gun game for the Sega Master System. Basically I got this because, well, I was curious to try it out, but also it's a Rambo game and I wanted to get a Rambo game for the Master System. Deep Duck Trouble starring Donald Duck. Not a game I've played as much as the next game you're going to see, but it's, yeah, a solid sort of semi-pseudo sequel to Lucky Dime Caper, and if you like Lucky Dime Caper, you're probably going to like this. We've got a first level video of that game up on the channel, uploaded some time ago actually. We have a whole Tom Plays of this game here. It's the Lucky Dime Caper starring Donald Duck. This is I'd say a bona fide classic. It gets a little tricky later on, you know. It's quite a long, I would say, for games of this time, a reasonably long platform game with some tricky segments in it, but the overall graphics presentation design is top notch, and you travel all around all lots of different places in the world, rescuing Huey, Dewey and Louie as Donald Duck and battling against Magica De Spell. Actually, I've never finished this game, believe it or not, but I have played a lot of it, and this is the first boss. Magica appears at the very beginning of the game. I assume she is a final boss. Telstar Fun and Games. This was a game I had as a kid. Got it one Christmas. This game was the kid got from Macro here in the UK, and yeah, I think this Master System version of Robocod James Pond 2 is actually really good. I mean, I have now since played the Mega Drive version of the game, and there's a few little cutbacks in this, but not too much actually. The backgrounds aren't, there's a little bit barer in this version of the game, but otherwise everything holds up pretty well, and I like the humour in this game, like the big bosses, I like the style of it. It's really good. Okay, so Again, going back to when I was collecting sports games for Master System, I wanted a football game. Super Kickoff seemed like a good one. I played a little of this, it was good, but I haven't played so much of it. This is the kind of game you'd play when you have friends to play it with. And well, I have got friends, thankfully. I haven't had much opportunity to play this multiplayer since I got it. But there it is, Super Kickoff. And next up we got Rocky, which is a boxing game, of course. And I wanted a boxing game for Master System. I wanted a Rocky game. Here it is. I'm glad it exists. And it's colourful, it's good. But again, I've not played too much of this one. Does it even have 2-player? Yes, it does have 2-player. Got to play a bit more of Rocky. Tennis Ace is up next. Now, Tennis Ace is, of course, oh, would you believe it, a tennis game. And yeah, pretty good one from what I recall playing. No manual of this one, I'm afraid. But if you have a tennis game, you might want to try Tennis Ace. Moonwalker on the Master System is really good and a heck of a lot cheaper than the Mega Drive version. If you if you got Master System and you want a version of Moonwalker to play, Moonwalker is a good side-scrolling action game developed by SEGA. And yeah, again, if you got a Master System, you might want to pick this up over the Mega Drive version, just because it's a bit cheaper and it's still very good. Oops. And last of all, for this part of the video, we have Laser Ghost. So Laser Ghost is a light gun game. I played it a little. I think you have to protect a little girl from the monsters. So the level sort of scrolls sideways from my memory, and you protect the girl from the monsters by shooting them. Yeah, nice cover, I have to say. But otherwise, it's not a game I've played too much of, unfortunately, or it didn't leave a great first impression. I thought I was done. Seems I'm not. I found 4 more Master System games. Dynamite Dux. Now, this game hasn't got a great reputation. I played it, I liked it, I think it's alright. I haven't played it for a very long time, but it's an action game, overhead action game. Well, not so dissimilar from a side-scrolling beat-em-up, actually. But yeah, I didn't think it was bad. Dynamite Dux. Considon is a good side-scrolling action game that, again, it's quite, well, actually, not again, because next up we have Considon, which is quite a highly regarded action game for the SEGA Master System. It's a side-scrolling platform actioner that, yeah, it's a lot of fun. I got this again when I worked in games retail. I think this came in to the store. I think that was the case. Otherwise, I bought it on eBay, but I bought it on eBay years ago. So, don't know how expensive it is now, but probably a little bit more than I paid for it. R-Type is a classic. I first played R-Type as R-Type DX on the Game Boy Color, which included R-Type 1 and 2. This is just R-Type 1, but it's a great version for the Master System, and I highly recommend it. R-Type is still my favourite side-scrolling shooter series. You better check this one out if you've got a Master System and you like shooters. Last of all, and this really is last of all for this section of the video now, we have Govelius, Valley of Doom, which I think is quite collectible now. Again, when I got it, it wasn't that collectible, and I got it for a very reasonable price. Must have been off eBay. Probably haven't got the manual. Oh, but it has got some codes. I think I was writing them down as I was playing the game. If you like Zelda like I do, let's face it, most people do tend to like Zelda, then you'll probably enjoy Govelius. Valley of Doom SEGA Master System. It's got overhead sections and also side-scrolling sections as well, but it's that sort of Zelda adventure type game. So that's it for this section of the video. You'll see a different backdrop in a moment. Hello and welcome to part 2 of our little Master System collection video. So we'll continue here in this totally different place with a Black Belt, which is a really good side-scrolling beat 'em up, I suppose, but it's very simple. There's only a couple of buttons. You fight through the stages and then you get a boss at the end of the stage, and it's good, simple, clean fun. Very enjoyable game. It's Black Belt. Moving along, Here's Outrun, and of course Outrun is a classic Sega game. Plays pretty well on the Master System as well. So this one's worth getting your hands on. Of course it's not quite the arcade version, but as a scaled down Master System version of Outrun, this is a lot of fun. Next up, another simple fun one, the Ninja, top down action. Get the ninja to the castle, fight off the enemies on the way. It's quite punishing, but stick with it because it's really enjoyable. Another great one here, Choplifter. So Choplifter is an interesting game where you rescue prisoners in a helicopter, basically, and it's a really unique concept and plays incredibly well. Very satisfying arcade style gameplay. Do give Choplifter a try. So next up, it's Global Defense. A really cool game here. Plays little satellite, take out missiles. Very fun, controls in a very unique way, almost like a twin stick shooter, but you have to hold down a button to switch between movement and aiming. But that actually works really well in practice, and I do recommend Global Defense. Moving on, we have Secret Command, which in the US is known as Rambo, but over here in the UK or Europe, you play as Ashura and Bishamon, yeah. You're two soldiers, and it's top-down action game like the Ninja, but really hard, really tricky. A good challenge though. If you stick with it, you will get there. Fun arcade style game. Next up, we have got California Games, selection of sports in a kind of like Olympic style kind of game. You go at half pipe, but of course the games aren't all like your regular Olympics. You got some funny ones like hacky sack as well as the normals like surfing and skateboarding. But it's cool if you like that kind of thing, but I think it's a little difficult to get to grips with, and there's much better sort of Olympic games available, I think. I mean, at the time maybe this was pretty unique. Nowadays I don't think it's aged very well, and it's difficult to sort of get into now. So although it's considered a bit of a classic of the time, I don't know if I can recommend this nowadays. But let me know down in the comments if you disagree, if you still play California Games regularly. Maybe you do for nostalgia purposes, but if you're not nostalgic for it, yeah. I'm nostalgic for this next game. It's Dick Tracy for Sega Master System, and I actually like this game better than the Mega Drive version. It's a little like Shinobi in a way, although you can shoot into the background of the levels, which sounds totally crazy, I know, but the Shinobi type gameplay is where you're walking from left to right, you're shooting enemies, right? There's boxes in the way. You have to think in a similar way as you do in Shinobi, for those familiar with Shinobi, of course. But otherwise, yeah, you have enemies shooting in the background. If you press up and your fire button, you'll shoot those enemies in the background. You can aim at them and fire at them with your Tommy gun, and yeah, really cool game. I do recommend Dick Tracy. Next up, we've got Castle of Illusion. Excellent game, one of the best on Master System. I played this version as a kid, as I did with Dick Tracy, so a lot of nostalgia for this, but I think it holds up very well still. And I've played the Mega Drive one, but I still keep coming back to this one because overall the whole presentation, the music, the design, the graphics, everything is top notch, and it's well worth checking out. A must have for the Sega Master System, I would say. Next up we got Double Dragon. Good side-scrolling beat 'em up. One of the originators of the genre. Still very good fun today. Nice visuals, plays well on my system. And also got 2-player, which you don't have on the NES version, so that's one reason to pick up the Master System version over that one. Next up, a very similar game. It's Vigilante. So Vigilante is kind of like Double Dragon, but you're stuck on I think you're pretty much stuck on a horizontal plane. I don't know if you can move in and out of the background. So in one respect, it's actually a bit more like what was that game we got before? Black Belt, of course. Yeah, it's a bit more like Black Belt, but with flashier graphics. The hit detection is a little weird. It's not the greatest game, but you know, it looks impressive and plays well enough. That's Vigilante in a nutshell. Next up, we've got Columns. Columns is a classic puzzle game. I've always enjoyed it. The Master System version is top notch. Has some music, sounds like it's, at least part of it, straight out of Tetris. I forget exactly which version of Tetris, it could be the Game Boy version, but I found that quite curious. Anyway, it doesn't play exactly like Tetris, match 3, different colours, and you can do that in different formations as well. It's a really fun puzzle game, simple but effective. We've got quite a stack of games mounting up here. Chuck Rock 2, Son of Chuck, got this fairly recently. It wasn't the cheapest game, though it wasn't too expensive because I never want to spend too much on any sort of retro game. But yeah, the music kind of gets a bit irritating. It starts off pretty well, but I think the boss music is particularly irritating, and that's the thing that stands out to me, unfortunately. Otherwise, there are some cool platforming mechanics in here that are kind of unique. The way Son of Chuck use it, Chuck Jr. I suppose he's called. How he uses his club is a lot of fun, and it's a pretty good game. I wouldn't say it's amazing. I don't see, if you're even a fan of the genre, you need to rush out and get it, but it's pretty impressive for a Master System game. Aladdin, again, is quite impressive in terms of its visuals. I didn't find it kept me playing though. It's not quite up there with the likes of the other versions of the game. My favourite being the Super Nintendo version, but it's not even quite as good as the Mega Drive version. But for Master System platformers, it looks very good, plays very good. Wouldn't be my pick of the bunch though. Next up, we have a game I actually prefer to Aladdin, and that is Lion King. Had this as a kid. Got it one Christmas. I've completed this game, a fair few times. There's 2 modes. There's an easy mode that takes you halfway through until after the Stampede level, or you can play all the way through and battle against Scar. 10 levels in total on its hardest difficulty, and yeah, I really enjoy it. I think it captures like atmosphere really well, designed really well, good visuals, and excellent recreations of the Lion King soundtrack. So I think we're going to move on now. Stick with Disney, shall we? It's the Jungle Book, or the Jungle Book, as we have here, the German copy of the game. This isn't bad. The first level's sort of like, it looks good again. First level, you have to find several objects till you move on to the next level. Next level, I think you're going up a tree. It's not a sort of standard platforming, but it's the responsiveness, I think, of Mowgli's jump and the controls that let it down a little. But again, like all the Disney games, it does play well. Let's shove these to the side here as we move on to Prince of Persia. Yes, Prince of Persia, very good game. Great visuals, plays very well. It's an acquired taste, it's a hard platform game, but it is a bit of a classic. You've got that time limit you've got to keep track of, which adds the extra pressure in the game. But not a favourite of mine, but I think it is a very good game, and you may really love it. A couple more here before we move on to the final 3. Wonder Boy Monster Line is one of my very favourite games on the Master System. Play this on a live stream like some of the others if you want to check that out on the channel. This is a kind of epic action RPG game, but the RPG elements are light. There's not tons of talking in this game at all. But there is lots of action, lots of little bit of platforming, and just cool style. Really nice upgrading Wonder Boy in this game with all the different armors and shields and swords and fighting the bosses. Great music as well. Really fantastic Master System game. A standout for the console, I would say. And next up we got Shinobi, which is another standout game that plays incredibly well. For those familiar with the arcade game, you'll know how good Shinobi is. Here's a Master System version, and yeah, you can't go wrong with that. No manual, I don't think, in my copy of Shinobi, but that's all right. I won't lose sleep over it. Next up, we have the last 3 titles: Sonic 1, Sonic 2, and Sonic Chaos. So let's move backwards, starting with Sonic Chaos. Sonic Chaos is the easiest of the bunch. It's got incredible music, great graphics. You can play as Sonic or Tails. Tails is easier. Sonic has the extra challenge of needing to collect all the emeralds to finish it properly. And while it's a relatively easy game, getting the emeralds will make it more challenging for you. You can complete this game rather quickly if you're not bothered about the emeralds. But it's very fun, and while it's short, it it's definitely very enjoyable. Much harder than Sonic Chaos is Sonic 2. It's got some unique things in it, like the hand gliders pictured on the front. You can't play as Tails, but he does feature in the title cards for every level, but he is not a playable character in this game. You do play just as Sonic. There's a good variety of levels, great music, good visuals. The difficulty is a bit punishing though, and it can be rather frustrating. Not a very well balanced game, I wouldn't say. So the original Sonic for Master System is totally different from the Mega Drive version, although it does have a couple of the same levels. They are designed very differently, and the whole visual aesthetic of it is quite different from the Mega Drive version. Special stages are different as well, but they're all spring based. They're actually arguably better. I don't know, less unique I suppose than the Mega Drive ones, but I like this game a lot. I think it's on par with the Mega Drive Sonic, pretty much, where its visuals and speed perhaps aren't quite there with the Mega Drive version. It's got incredible design, great graphics, great personality, very well balanced game. The emeralds are hidden in the levels in this, so that is an extra challenge that you need to consider. But that's it for this video. Thank you so much for taking time to watch this as I go stroll down Master System memory lane. And I know it's a long one, but thanks for sticking with it if you made it to the end. If you like this kind of content, feel free to like the video and subscribe to Blast Process. So until I see you again, it's goodbye and game on.